So Ian, do you want to talk about what we have for PrEP right now, and then maybe we can talk about a little bit about what is coming or has just recently been approved?
Sure. There are 2 FDA products for PrEP. Both include tenofovir and emtricitabine. The older form of tenofovir disoproxil fumarate, and emtricitabine, that's Truvada. And the newer form, tenofovir alafenamide plus emtricitabine, that's Descovy. The newer formulation is a little bit safer, less renal toxicity potential, less problems with decreasing bone mineral density. And the products are equally effective in a head-to-head trial. I think it's important for the audience to understand that PrEP is really effective when people adhere to it. In an early study with tenofovir disoproxil fumarate, TDF, and FTC, if men who have sex with men took 4 or more doses a week, there were no people who got infected. PrEP may not be as effective in women as it is in men, and women may need to adhere at higher rates than men who have sex with men because of the different ways that these drugs enter tissues and the concentration in mucosal tissues where people may get exposed. So we can't say that PrEP is as effective in women at lower level who are adhering at lower levels.
And Julia, what the newer form and the TAF FTC versus TDF FTC, how should we think about those alternatives in terms of cost or effectiveness? Do you have ideas here?
Yeah, as Ian mentioned, they are equally effective, TAF FTC and TDF FTC, but that was a trial done only in men who have sex with men and a handful of trans women. So the FDA approval for TAF FTC excluded people at risk of HIV through receptive vaginal sex. So that there's a limitation there. And in terms of safety, we can think about renal and bone health, absolutely, but there were also some side effects associated with TAF FTC that I think are worth considering, including increased cholesterol and weight gain compared with TDF FTC. So they really are both extremely safe drugs with very, very few people stopping the medication.
That's really important, right? I mean, I think that we talk about renal and we talk about bone, but they are...
We're talking about biomarkers,
right,
really.
We're talking about biomarkers at this point, right?
Not really clinically significant differences. And the cost issue, I think, is really relevant here. They're very expensive medications, and TDF FTC is about to go generic later this year. And so there's an opportunity here to maintain people on TDF FTC and then switch them to generics, and at a cost of approximately $24,000 a year for PrEP. I think it could make a huge difference once the cost begins to go down with generics.
Sure. Allison, I'm curious, in adolescence, do you worry more about the bone effects? Should we worry more about the bone effects? I know they haven't really been studied, in younger adolescents. TDF FTC has an indication, I guess, in younger adolescents, but
yeah. So TDF FTC is part of Truvada, as you noted, was studied down to age 15 in the ATN, the Adolescent Trial Network studies 113, and then the older ages in the 110. And so there were some of the same sort of bone effects that we're seeing, but again, nobody knows what that's going to mean long term. We certainly know that during adolescence you're laying down bone still, and so do you then affect what your greatest achieved bone is going to be? I think that's theoretical, but I'll tell you, if you're preventing HIV infection in these young people, I think that you have to balance that as well. And so I think your point is well taken in terms of, clinically meaningful. It's not clear what that's going to mean if you have a little less bone than you were going to have, but you also averted your HIV diagnosis, right?
Which also has very significant effects on the bone.
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah, sure.
So
I would never, this idea, you wouldn't use it, but I wondered whether, there is certainly a difference between TAF and TDF in terms of bone, and whether, because that's a sensitive time in adolescence of bone deposition. I'm not advocating one way or the other. I'm just saying that that's probably something we need to think about?
No, definitely. So agree. I mean, I think it's certainly it is part of the conversation that you have, and certainly again the cost issues I think are going to be important. I think there are some assistance programs that allow Descovir TAF FTC to be available, and so we do have access to that, and I think it is something to think about what the impacts are going to be.